Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope we're all okay today. Obviously, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I was just checking my mic there. I hope we're all okay today. Obviously, like I just said, it's Christmas time as well. So we are halfway through the season. And obviously, I was going to do a little review on each and every team in the Premier League. But I might as well combine two of the ideas that I was going to have for this. And I'm going to be doing a tier list. Now, what I've got here is a tier list on the Premier League season so far. We've got perfect, good, average, poor, and awful. But if you haven't already, please can you go subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate all the subscriptions that I do get. Obviously, all the comments as well as the likes and stuff. You know how it goes. I will be replying to every comment, I'm sure, unless you hurl abuse. Then what's the point in replying to them? But if you haven't already, can you comment below where you think your team will be? And if I'm wrong, then please let me know as well. Like I said, I'm going to reply to all the comments that I do see fit, if that's the right way of saying it. But obviously, I've just jumbled up the teams below as well, so it's not necessarily in alphabetical order, which is quite obvious and quite predictable. Not quite as predictable as my tier list that I did the other day, as well as the predictions that I did before, because I put Brentford in 20th. So I think that might be perfect to start with Brentford. Where are they? I'm going to put Brentford in good so far this season, because obviously I predicted them to be 20th this season. If you haven't already, go and check out that video where I had to drink 10 sips because I was 10 away from it. That that was a fun edit at the end of the day. I forgot to, make the screen different. I'm just checking it now. Yes, it's okay. It's all good. Obviously, they bought efficiently during the summer, and I thought that maybe that's not well enough. They got the likes of Rigo Henry coming back. Keane Lewis Potter looks like a decent signing. Obviously, they lost Ericsson during the summer, so I thought maybe a second season syndrome would arrive, but it hasn't so far. And Thomas Frank's done well with them. And I think the approach to the way Brentford play is probably what you should do in the Premier League. You should either gung-ho like maybe a Fulham do, or go a more pragmatic route like they have been. A little bit different to what they were in the Championship. But we'll go from Brentford to a team that has arrived in the Premier League and who's doing absolutely amazing. And I'm going to put them in perfect, because Fulham, I can't see them doing any better than where they are right now. 22 points, 6 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses during that time. And obviously, Marco Silva has shown. Sorry, I'm out of breath. They've got this all pent up nervous energy for some reason. Under Marco Silva, they're doing absolutely perfect. You think last season they were a Premier League side in the Championship. Alexander Mitrovic is flying again. People thought maybe he wasn't good enough for the Premier League. I think he's written them the doubters. He's proven the doubters wrong, hasn't he? So I think that for them to be ninth above, the likes of Palace, Villa, Leicester, all them teams below him, I got just name more, can't I? But next up we got Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa I'm gonna put them in poor. There can't be anything more than that. The expectations that they've got. Obviously, Gerrard didn't really work out with him. Whether or not he'll do well in his next job, I'm not too sure. Him and Mick Beale seem to be the good partnership, and obviously the Mick Beale thing, bit of a disgrace, weren't it, going to Rangers from Queen's Park Rangers 37 days after. Anyway, we'll ignore that fact. I'm going off on a tangent. We'll go to Aston Villa because, obviously, like I said, they bought big again. Coutinho's not really working out. They brought in Unai Emery, who's a great manager for that sort of level. Not to disrespect Unai Emery or Aston Villa, but you got to be realistic. Because a few seasons ago, they were in the Championship. Unai Emery didn't do well at PSG. Arsenal is a good player and a good manager even for a team like Aston Villa. Probably will make him go into the Europa League at some point, I'm sure. Anyway, I digress. Next team I'm going to go with is Crystal Palace. I'm going to put them in average. And I thought they were a bit lower than what they were at this point, because they are currently in 11th place. We're on the 29th of December right now, by the way. So if it's changed slightly, then that's the reason why. Out of breath again. Why am I so out of breath? Maybe I'm coming down with something. But yeah, I thought they were a lot lower than what they were. Expectations again have risen because of how well Patrick Vieira did last season. The first time they finished in the top 10 ever, I believe. And yeah, he's installing this new tactics and this new style of play that he's got. Quite obvious to say, isn't it? Because of the way Roy Hodgson was with them. But it's the perfect way for a team to go up, be more pragmatic, like I said, with Brentford. And then once you cemented yourself as a Premier League side, then progress more into a side that you want to show off a bit more, essentially. Next up is Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to put them in between good and average, isn't it? you know what? I'm going to put them in average just for now. Just for now, I'm going to put them in average because they're in 30 points, fourth place in the league, 9 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses. But I think it's the way that Tottenham play, isn't it, that the fans aren't enjoying. And I think we know that the way Conte plays, it's very boring. It's very, I keep using the word pragmatic, but it's like the Jose Mourinho back in the day. It's not going to look good, but it's going to get the points on the board. And do Tottenham want that right now? I'm not too sure. All they need is a trophy win. I'm sure the floodgates will open. They will appear again. And quite frankly, I don't think they could do much better than what they're doing right now. So I'm sure at some point I will change a couple at the end of the video because obviously I'll have certain teams in certain places, maybe which I'll disagree on even in 10 minutes time. But yeah, that could go to good easily. But obviously the way that they're playing probably puts them down into average. Next up is Everton FC, and I'm going to put them in. It's definitely not average. Let's see, what are they? They're in 17th place. I'm going to put them in poor just for now. There's only a couple of teams that I probably would put in awful right now. Expectations, again, I don't think many would think that Everton would progress this season under Frank Lampard. I think they're probably about where they are. Onana seems like a good signing. But they seem to just have that same issue, don't they? They lost a couple of players, massive players during the summer in Richarlison, you know. And I think not really replacing them is a massive, massive loss for them. Obviously, Morpie came in. I think that's how you say it, isn't it? Morpay. I do apologise, but I think his lack of clinical finishing is very apparent in this Everton squad. And everyone keeps going, when Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes back in, you know, when he comes back in, they're going to perform well. Well, he hasn't come back, has he? He's injury prone right now, and he's clearly showing that he might not get back to the where he was. You know, even if he comes back, you know, he's going to be gone in 3 weeks' time. So you can't trust him anymore. Not at the minute, anyway. Next up is Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I'm going to put them in awful because up until they beat Everton yesterday, they were rock bottom on 10 points. And for a team that I thought would be in and amongst the top 10 under Bruno Lage, I thought, you know what? They've cemented themselves as a good team at the back, but they can't get the bloody goal in the ball in the goal, obviously. But I think that with Wolverhampton Wanderers, under Julian Lopetegui, again, I do apologise. Something could turn around. Obviously, you'll have that bounce, won't you? Perfect time as well because you'll have the January transfer window. I probably will review all of them as well. Probably another tier list, no doubt. Each and every January transfer window, they need a striker first and foremost. I think that's the priority for them now. Diego Costa hasn't worked out. Jimenez isn't the player that he once was. Adama Traore wants to leave, it seems. Not much is really going on up front, and they do miss that striker up front, don't they? And as I say that, we've just got a massive thunderstorm. Anyway, next up is Bournemouth FC. I'm going to put them in good because obviously nobody expected them to be 14th spot. Scott Parker obviously got sacked after the Liverpool game, probably on the off-field scenarios rather than on the pitch itself. I think the 9-0 didn't help anyone's case, and I'm sure tensions were high at that point. But under Gary O'Neill, seemed like a very, very solid team. I think he's still interim at the minute, which is a shame still because he has deserved his spot as the manager. Marco Bielsa has been linked, and not sure whether that'll work or not. I wasn't really. People seem to love him at Leeds, and I think that his style of play is very, very short term, isn't it? It's not going to work for long periods of time. And do Bournemouth really want that? Not too sure. Maybe they do. Maybe just to stay up for a couple of seasons. Who knows? Next up is West Ham, and I'm going to put them in awful because 16th place, 14th points, 14th points. Jesus, 16th place, 14 points. I think the Europa League conference isn't helping him doing him any favors. Signings haven't really worked out. Already knocked out in the cup. Declan Rice seems to be on his way out. There seems to be a lack of leadership in the team, a lack of motivation to produce at the right times for West Ham. And I don't think it's working. Obviously, I don't want David Moyes to lose his job, but it's worrying that questions are being said, even at this point, after last season, how well they did to get to the semi-final of the Europa League. I think this team needs a bit of a revamp. I'm sure that's what David Moyes is thinking as well. He's getting paid a lot of money, isn't he, just to say what I'm saying, to be honest with you. And, I think that's the obvious point. I think I'm not too sure where they need to improve. Maybe a couple more up front. They can't rely on Antonio, can they? And he seems to be the only sort of plan B that they've got right now. Interestingly enough, I think that like a Haller would have been perfect, wouldn't it? But obviously that didn't work out, did it? I'm sure they'll be going for a striker as well, or maybe like a winger type. I know they've been linked with Ben to Diaz a little bit, but who hasn't at this point? But yeah, I think awful just for them, just for now. Let me check if I've got the stream still going. I do run 11 minutes. Or whatever it is on the on YouTube, maybe 10 minutes. Next up is Arsenal, and I think everyone knows where I'm going to put these. Perfect, 40 points, 13 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. I don't think that it could go any better for them. The United fixture was the only blip on the card. I think that was just a case of momentum swinging in the game. It could have easily been Arsenal's win as well in that one. And there's 5 points between them and City, who I'm going to be putting in good as well. I'll come back to them in a second. But it's going to be a very interesting second half of the season. Can Arsenal provide the goals and the momentum while Jesus is out? I'm not too sure. I'm sure Eddie Nketiah will get a few, but I don't think he's on the level of Jesus, obviously. Do they need a striker? I don't think so. They've got enough depth right now. And I don't think they even can because of financial fair play, because of how much they spent. But they've been very efficient in the way they spent, very forward-thinking in the way they spent. And under Mikel Arteta, who had a lot of doubters at the time, me included, has shown, I'm put my hands up, my bad, that he's doing a really, really good job. Some may say a perfect job. But obviously I put Manchester City in good as well. I think Manchester City's expectation, other than, I think they would have to go unbeaten this season to be imperfect, but anything less than that is just good. They've had a couple of games where they've been a bit wobbly, but who doesn't? 5 points behind the top, which if you told me at the start of the season Manchester City would be 5 points off the top of the league, then you might be even saying it's an average season for them. But obviously, context matters, and with the amount of money that Manchester City have, with the amount of resources they have, obviously you've got to perform on the pitch. You've got to perform as a coach under Pep. They've got all the armory there, haven't they? And this can't be anything more than good. Next up is Brighton and Hove Albion, who I'm going to put in good as well. I don't think they could be perfect because expectation, again, I think people probably would put them in between 7th and 10th. I think most people would, especially the fact that Graham Potter left for Chelsea. I think that Roberto De Zerbi has come in and it's been seamless. Obviously, cracks will appear at some point, I'm sure, but the win against Liverpool, the draw against Liverpool was obviously a massive result, wasn't it? I think that, obviously, let's see, they're on 7 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. Pretty okay for them, isn't it? I think if they can get into the Europa League or the Europa League Conference, that'll be an amazing season for them. I'm sure they've been to Europe at some point in the 70s or 80s. I'm very sure of that. But it'd be good to see them in the Europa League, a bit of a different side up there. And it shows that sides can do it. It isn't just about buying your way up to the top, is it? It shows and it makes teams believe, especially as a fan of the Championship, that anybody that could come up from the Championship can, if the resources and if the recruitment is on point under Dan Ashworth. Obviously, he's at Newcastle right now, and it shows how they're doing. I'll put them in a second. That it can go right for you. And if you look at the Brighton team right now, everyone that they're buying is under 24, 25, and it just seems to be a long list of different players from each and every part of the globe that nobody's heard of, and they're producing well. Look at Saicedo right now; he's linked with everybody. Next up, I'll say, like I said before with Dan Ashworth, Newcastle, and I can't put them anything but perfect. 3rd in the league, 33 points. What hasn't been said about Newcastle this season? The Toon Army are amazing to watch. Very efficient on the way they defend. Very efficient the way they attack. Not just that, Eddie Howe is bringing the best out of everyone. Who would knew that Miguel Almiron would be on 9 goals this season? I don't think even the nicest of fans would be. I think the likes of Jack Grealish is he's probably not, but he's turning his in his bed right now with the amount he's on. And I think that it would be funny if Newcastle won the league, wouldn't it? And Miguel Almiron said that line about Jack Grealish. Oh, I'm sure it won't. They've only lost one this season, to be honest with you, so it could happen. But the Leicester makes you believe as well. But if they get anything, even if they don't make the top four, it's still a perfect season for them this season. Next up is, and I will go with Leeds United. Leeds United are on 15 points in 15th, and that's probably about average. You could even put them up to good, I'm sure. But I'll put them in average just for now because under Jesse Marsh, I'm sure people would have guessed that he would have been sacked by now. Proving people wrong, isn't he? As an American manager, it always comes with its massive baggage, doesn't it? Like Bob Bradley came in, didn't work out, and it comes with this sort of xenophobic reaction, doesn't it? If someone comes from America, that we sort of, you know, we have this sort of thought about him, don't we? I'm not too sure. I don't know whether that's like a traditional value that football fans, just because they call it soccer means that they don't know anything about it. He clearly does. He's doing well, and he's doing better than Marco Bielsa's done in the past, apart from the first season they came up. And I think that if he lasts a season, I'll obviously be pushing up to good. But for now, right now, 4 wins, 3 draws, 8 losses is about right for Leeds United, isn't it? Next up is Leicester City, and I was going to put him in poor. Yeah, I'm going to put him in poor. And it's not necessarily because of the on-field situation. It's because the lack of recruitment, the poor recruitment off the field. Obviously, it's going to be off the field on the field, because obviously the players are on the field. It set them up for a poor season, and only because of the last few games just before the World Cup, they were in the bottom 3 by quite a distance as well. If James Maddison goes this January, then it's not looking good for them. It seems like they're at the end of their life, don't they? As a team, as a manager, maybe even in the Premier League, I think that it's been nothing but negative at Leicester this season. No money coming in from the owners, no money coming in onto the pitch. I'm not sure if it's because of financial fair play or if the team is too bloated right now, because obviously they were in the Europa League conference or Europa League last season. Yeah, it almost seems like a very, very transitional season. And what do I always say on this channel? Transitional always means, it's like a nice way of saying poor, isn't it? I think pretty much. So yeah, that's what I think about Leicester City this season. I'm sure that'll change at some point. Next up is Chelsea, and I can't put it in anything other than awful this season. Oh, it's a nice little thing going on there, isn't there? Yeah, off the field again, terrible. Obviously, it's not necessarily their fault because of the war, isn't it? That Roman Abramovich had to sell. Obviously, I'm not making that an excuse because that was the excuse last season for them, weren't it? Sacking Tuchel, probably one of the best managers they could have ever have got. To bring in Graham Potter, don't get me wrong, he's a great manager, but I don't believe he is on the same level as Tuchel. Prove me wrong, obviously, but it isn't going well for them so far this season. 24 points, 8th in the league. People had them to win the league this season. I think that the recruitment in the summer was weird. It was strange. It seemed very gung-ho, very shotgun approach to the transfer policy. Todd Bowley has a lot to learn. Bringing in the whole recruitment system in the summer, it was very, very rushed and it looked very, very panicky. And Aubameyang, I mean, that summarises the whole transfer policy, doesn't it, for them? Setting up for a poor season at least. But it's gone even worse than that, hasn't it? If they don't make the Champions League, I'm sure they will be in a lot of trouble, even if they keep Graham Potter for next season, if that doesn't happen. Next up is Liverpool. I don't know, there's quite a few Liverpool fans that are going to be watching this, so I do apologise. But I can't put them in anything other than poor, to be honest with you. I think that Liverpool this season, obviously, I'm not too sure what's gone wrong there. It seems that everyone seems to think that Liverpool should be up top with Manchester City this season. Sorry, Liverpool should be there with Manchester City. Is that what I said? I'm not too sure. But the signing of Darwin Núñez, the letting go of Sadio Mane, I know they're different sort of players, but letting him go for 30 million, signing Darwin Núñez, that seems to work, not really work. He's not really performing that well, is he? I think that him as a marquee signing went well at the start, didn't it? But seems to be slightly getting lower and lower with every single game. And you know, I'm going to be honest, he's great entertainment, but the ball pings off his foot. He has a lot to learn essentially in the Premier League, and I don't think many people would have predicted him to be sixth. If you said at the start of the season, Liverpool is sixth in the league right now, you can't say anything more than poor, can you? Especially under Klopp, who has expectations must be through the roof right now. I'm sure they'll bring it back, and I think I will predict him to be in the top four at the end of the season. But just for now, I'm going to put him in poor. Next up is Nottingham Forest. I'm going to put them in, and I know they're 19th, but they're only one point off 17th. So I'm going to put them in average just for now, and I think that's contradicting myself a little bit here. But off the field, they've bought 25 players, didn't they, during the transfer? And I think that if Forest obviously kept the players that brought them up to the Championship last season, then they would be in a better position right now, wouldn't they? But obviously they lost a lot of players out on loan. A lot of players are out on contract, and they tried to do a massive overhaul all at once. And a lot of them players are on 1-year deals. Is it going to work for them? If it doesn't, it looks like they've got a very, very skeleton staff, haven't they, on the pitch? But they're making the best effort, aren't they? I don't think they were very conservative with the transfer scenario, are they? I'm quite generous to put him in average, I think. Steve Cooper is an amazing manager. He's probably the best that they can get right now. Obviously, he's under contract, and I thought he would have got sacked just after that. So to keep him in there, obviously, only being 1 point off the bottom four right now for any team that's come up from the Championship is a good sign. Obviously, the two have probably made Forest look a little bit a little bit poorer. But they obviously came through the playoffs. They probably were the poorest team coming into the Premier League until they bought all the players. That's a calm take, isn't it? But I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put them in average. Next up is Southampton. I'm going to put them in. I'm going to put them in awful because bottom of the league, poor recruitment. Hassan Hüttl was there for way too long. This is going to be quite a quick one. Nathan Jones, I'm not too sure if that will work. It didn't work at Stoke. I think it's quite a naive appointment. I don't think he's got the gravitas or the conviction as a Premier League manager. Prove me wrong. Obviously, like I say all the time on this, prove me bloody wrong. But I don't think Nathan Jones is a good enough tactical manager to be, in the Premier League right now. He did wonders at Luton, but it seems like a match made in heaven, doesn't it, with Luton and Nathan Jones? Because obviously it worked first time, didn't work at Stoke, came back, worked better again. They got to the playoffs, but it obviously didn't work out that well this season. And for some reason, I don't really know why Southampton really went for Nathan Jones. Maybe because he's a younger Welshman, not to say Welshman the criteria, but I just wanted to say his nationality, to be honest with you, because a lot of people think he's English, even though he's got a thick Welsh accent. But yeah, I don't think anything's gone right for Southampton this season. I don't think, obviously, bottom of the table screams awful, doesn't it? If you said to Southampton fans at the start of the season, your manager will be sacked and you're bottom of the table, below the likes of, everyone essentially, then you can't say anything other than awful. And obviously, we've got, last but not least, we've got Manchester United. Now it should go in perfect, shouldn't it? Because just to make it, perfectly symmetrical. But I'm going to put them in. They are currently in 5th place right now. I'm going to put them in average. I think that Ten Hag's doing well enough right now at Manchester United. A horrendous start, losing to Brentford, but then the win against United seemed to start something, breathe a bit of life into this Manchester United team. They seem to be performing slightly better now. Obviously, the off the field with Ronaldo probably hurts them a lot this season, and to get rid of them, not necessarily just because of money, but because of ego, because of mentality in the changing room, it's probably a good thing. I'll probably will predict them to be in the top 4 as well at the end. For the end of the season, I'll be doing a predictions video probably in the next few days for the rest of the campaign. But obviously, that is the last team that I will put there, Manchester United average. So if you haven't already, please can you go subscribe to the channel? I do appreciate all the subscriptions I do get. I feel like I've got this cotton mouth feeling that I did last time I did one of these. They're quite a long time just to talk by yourself with just a few pictures in there. So I appreciate it if you are at this stage right now. let me know if there's any teams that if you want to change up or down. Maybe a Liverpool to average. I'm not too sure. Maybe like a Brighton to perfect or Brentford to perfect. Let me know in the comments below. Like I say, I will reply to every single comment unless they're unnecessarily hateful. But let's keep it nice and calm in the chat below. If you haven't already, like I say, please can you go subscribe to the channel? Just put it there. Boop, 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 boo. You don't have to do notification. I'm not too fussed about that one. But yeah, that's the video, and that's me done for probably this year. So if I haven't got another video coming out before the new year, I hope you all have a great new year. Hope you all have some new Year's resolutions, and I will be doing a 2023 predictions video with Cal on the podcast soon, I'm sure. And yeah, that's the video. Like I say, I will show you the tier list again just to refresh the memory a tiny bit. And I will see you all very, very soon. See you later, guys. Peace.